What's going on, guys? So I got another impression video here in Lockheed Martin's P3D, or Prepared, or whatever the name for it is. And what I was going to go over today was two new additions I got, which is KJAC, Kilo Juliet Alpha Charlie, which is Jackson Hole Airfield, by the guys who make ORBX scenery. And then I also got the Central Rocky Mountains terrain upgrade, and I was going to check that out. The only thing I've done so far is load onto the ramp and just take a look at Jackson Hole Airport. The reason I chose this terrain is because, you know, I'm from Wyoming, from Cheyenne, and Jackson Hole's pretty famous and a few hours northwest of me, so wanted to check it out because I'm going to eventually do a real cross country up that way. So I'm going to grab my freaks here real quick. Looks like the ATIS is 1.2625, and it looks like CTAF is 118. Writing these down on my iPad. 75. Okay, that's probably all we need for now. Now there's a tower too. I don't know if the tower is open or not, but it looks like it's the same as CTAF. Weather conditions I don't think I'll mess with too much right now. Yeah, sure, whatever, do it. Okay. There we go. And I'll put myself at GA parking. We'll reset the system time. Winter season. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it winter. Now weather is one thing I wanted to change, because one thing that happens in P3D is the clouds, they tend to get put almost at ground level, and out here in Wyoming I've not seen a whole lot of ground level clouds. You know, our altitude is pretty high. I think where I'm at right now is about 7,800, and Jackson Hole is probably close to that, if not a little higher or lower. So I'm going to move the clouds up to, let's just say 11. Or I'm sorry, I should do 11,000 for the base and the top. We'll just do some random number just to get them out of my face, because they tend to be right at ground level by default a lot, which is kind of irritating to see these big old cumulus clouds just floating along, you know, the runway. So, which could happen, I'm sure, under the right conditions out here with the altitude, but usually you just got a lot of, you know, higher altitude cumulus clouds around here. Stays sunny 75% of the time. Okay, so here we are in our A2A simulation Cessna. Looks like I left the battery and the avionics on. Oops, this thing's persistent, so it remembers everything. So we'll go ahead and just start it up. I'm not going to really obey the checklist like I should today. I'm just going to get it going. We can check this out, make this video reasonably short. Pretty cold, so we'll give it a little extra fuel pump than normal, and advance that throttle a little bit. Once again, the altitude's real high around here, so we're gonna have to keep the mixture lean during ground ops here. There we go, good start. We'll lean her out a little bit. Okay, avionics already on. We'll tune our freaks real quick and get the ATIS. Not too worried about any traffic stuff right now. We're not going that in depth. So it looks like the ATIS is 120 62. There we go. 262 at 1.8. Okay. That's a little more realistic. Wyoming wind is always blowing. It's probably pretty loud, so let me shut these windows. Okay, and it looks like runway 19 is the ILS. Okay, so we'll just use runway 19. Now, one thing I probably should do is make sure my volume isn't super loud here so you guys can hear me. So let me hop into here real quick. Yeah, that's my next purchase I'm looking at. P3D, we'll just turn it down a little bit. There we go. Okay. And runway 19 is right about here, so we'll taxi this way. Totally unfamiliar with the airport, and the real deal, I'd be asking for a progressive taxi right now. I said runway 1, so yeah, this way should take us to 19. Because the reciprocal bearing of 10 would be 190. Plus 200, minus 20, all that good stuff. So the A2A Cessna I'm definitely happy with. Very realistic. I did have some issues with the controls. There was a lot of latency, like when I moved the yoke like this. But I found out turning the sensitivity settings all the way to the far right, the most sensitive, did help alleviate that quite a bit. So I could definitely say that looking at the airport before and after buying the add-on, there's definitely a lot more detail. You can see ground crews and people walking around, static aircraft. The buildings look correct compared to photos I've looked at. Here's runway 19. We'll hold short real quick and do a run up. So I definitely see detail. Now those mountains over there also look quite nice. Still keeping it leaned out a little bit on the run up because it's very easy to get plug fouling. Left mag, yeah, a little fouling there. Right mag, not too bad. Yep, we look pretty good. So yeah, the mountains definitely see some detail increase there, and I don't know if that's from KJAC or if that's from the Central Rocky Mountains add-on I bought. Clouds look better, a little more Wyoming-like. I am using the default weather. I know a lot of people will probably gasp at the fact that I'm using default, weather systems, but I haven't got into those upgrades yet. Very easy to spend a lot of money on P3D, I find. Okay, so we'll just kind of do a rolling departure here. Enriching that mixture a little bit. Don't want to detonate. And coming up right on about 55 knots, a little bit of back pressure. And definitely got a wind there. So we'll crab on into that. That was naughty. I forgot about that wind. Okay, and we'll maintain that 500 foot per minute climb. Well, my impressions right off the bat is that all looks very realistic to me. I haven't flown at Jackson Hole yet, but compared to the default P3D, FSX, whatever terrain that just seems to be kind of copy and pasted generic buildings, the way those roads and buildings look a lot more realistic. Now, I can't say if it's just like the real thing or not. Flaps coming up, we're over 500 feet AGL. But I definitely think that there's an improvement there. The mesh, like the actual texture of the terrain, it's still, to me, it looks a little old. I mean, you can see it's a little pixelated, and that's probably something that the guys at ORBX can only do so much about without just crushing your sim performance. But at the same time, the areas around the runway, oh yeah, there's a definite improvement. Okay. So this is one thing I know from looking at photos of the real Jackson Hole. In the default flight sim, that runway was all, kind of gray or whatever, and it definitely looks like they've corrected that. And all the buildings around Jackson Hole look good too. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, but the terrain, like I said, there's probably only so far they can go with the actual resolution of textures, because there is a little bit of pixelation. But at the same time, it does look real. I mean, especially from the altitude. You're not going to be up at ground level at a lot of these places. Need to lean out my mixture a little bit. There we go. That'll do it. yeah, it is pretty to the lake over there. And my understanding is one of the things ORBX does is they just attention to detail. You know, they look at the real terrain, the satellite photos, the buildings that are actually around, and correct it. That little mountain over there, Butte, whatever they call them out here, certainly looks very Wyoming-like to me. You see a lot of foothills like that out here. In fact, there's one within 4 or 5 miles of my house over at Kirk County. Very beautiful place to live. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, you know, like I said, a little bit of pixelation if you really look at some of the ground textures, but it seems like every once in a while there's a little bit of choppiness, and I have a very powerful PC, so that may be something I need to do to the settings to correct that. But frame rates right now are good. It's very cool. Very cool. I'm going to have to look at some satellite photos of the area to probably appreciate some of the detail they've added here. Little building over there. And a lot of these buildings, I don't know if they use the assets that were already in Flight Sim to find ones that look close to the buildings that are actually in real life, or if they make new ones. I would imagine probably the former more than the latter, but you know, hey, I got to say that this is probably the most realistic representation you're going to get on any type of virtual media or PC without doing it in real life. And it does, yeah, it does look nice. So, you know, the ORBX terrains, I think they run about $20 to $30 US, depending on what you get. I gotta admit, before I bought one, I wasn't sure if it would be worth it or not. But now that I get up here and look at it, and also realize the massive amount this encompasses. I mean, this is the entire central Rocky Mountain area. I am starting to see the value here and why people are such a fan. Alright, well, we're just going to do a sloppy little hasty approach here. We'll just go right to the base leg. I want to see what it looks like when I'm approaching KJAC with the higher resolution terrain here. Definitely going fast. We're almost in our maneuvering speed limitation. See if we can bleed off some of that airspeed. One thing I wanted to test about this air-to-air Cessna is some of the slip characteristics. So let's try a little side slip. Okay. So now we're at about a 500. Let's watch that BSI, and we'll put a slip in. Okay. Yep. She's side slipping, definitely. Okay, so A2A has definitely put a proper side slip model. Now, one thing in a real aircraft, when you do a side slip, you get a lot of noise from the changing aerodynamics, and I didn't really notice that too much, but the modeling of the side slip seems to be quite good. So we'll go ahead and get a first notch of flaps in. Now that we're within flap deployment speed, get that crosswind correction in. Enriching the mixture here on our approach. And second notch of flaps. Little power in, pitching for that airspeed. Okay, there we go. Keep it about 200 or 300 feet per minute. Pappy looks okay. Got a lot of runway here. Definitely a good right crosswind there coming in. Speed looks good. Tell you what, guys, landing a plane in a sim is tougher than in real life any day of the week. Alright, so keeping that wing tipped into the wind. Rudder there to straighten us out. And there we go. One wheel on the ground. There we go. Whew. That was hairy. Yeah, I gotta admit, landing a real plane is way easier than the sim plane. Something I'm gonna have to get used to. I guess it's just because you have a feel of what the airframe's doing more. But we got on the ground, right? Also landing the high wing Cessna after flying center stick diamonds for years was also something I had to get used to on the real thing not too long ago. Okay, well, my impressions so far are quite good. Like I said, the values, I guess, subject to the beholder a little bit, but I think that I could definitely see a lot of improvements in a lot more detail here. So I'm sure my enjoyment will go up as I fly around the area more and more. But so far, yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I think that I think the improvement's pretty substantial, especially for the airport. Jackson Hole looks awesome. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys. I'll put up some more videos here shortly.